Europe, 1930s. A continent still reeling from the devastation of the Great War, trying to find its footing amidst the ruins. Cities were being rebuilt and life was slowly returning to a semblance of normalcy. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. The world had barely begun to heal from the Great War. The scars of battle were still fresh, and the memories of loss and destruction lingered in the minds of millions. Economies were fragile, and political landscapes were shifting. Yet the seeds of another conflict were being sown. Political rallies and military parades became more frequent, and the rhetoric grew increasingly aggressive. Nationalism was on the rise, and old rivalries were rekindled. Germany, bitter and broken, found a charismatic leader in Adolf Hitler. He was a man who could channel the nation's anger and frustration into a vision of renewed strength and unity. His speeches resonated with a populace desperate for change. He promised prosperity and a return to glory, tapping into deep-seated resentment. The crowds cheered, and the propaganda machine worked tirelessly to spread his message. Hope and hatred intertwined, creating a potent mix. The Treaty of Versailles, a heavy yoke around Germany's neck, fueled the flames of nationalism. The harsh terms of the treaty had left the country humiliated and economically crippled. Many Germans saw it as a symbol of their suffering and a rallying point for their anger. Hitler's expansionist ambitions in the east were clear. Austria was annexed. Czechoslovakia followed. Each move was a calculated step towards a larger goal. Across Europe, anxieties grew. The world watched with bated breath, hoping to avoid another catastrophe. The League of Nations, a beacon of hope after the First World War, seemed powerless. Its efforts to maintain peace were thwarted by the rising tide of aggression. Diplomacy faltered, and the cracks in the international order widened. Appeasement, a policy of concession, was failing. Leaders like Neville Chamberlain believed that by giving in to some of Hitler's demands, they could prevent a larger conflict, but each concession only emboldened the aggressor, making war seem inevitable. A storm was gathering, dark and ominous, threatening to engulf the world in another devastating war. The signs were all there, but the world seemed powerless to stop it. As the clouds of conflict loomed ever larger, the hope for peace grew dimmer. September 1st, 1939. The world watched in horror as German tanks thundered across the Polish border. The Wehrmacht, Hitler's war machine, was unleashed. A blitzkrieg, a lightning war. It was a terrifying display of military might. Poland, ill-equipped to withstand the onslaught, fell swiftly. Britain and France, bound by treaties, declared war on Germany. World War II had begun. What followed was a nightmare. 6 years of unimaginable brutality. A global conflict that would reshape the world order. Millions would perish, victims of a war they did not choose. The German war machine, fueled by the Blitzkrieg strategy, was relentless. Denmark and Norway fell, then Belgium, the Netherlands, and finally France. The seemingly invincible French army was crushed. Paris, the city of lights, was plunged into darkness under Nazi occupation. Europe was in shock. The speed and ferocity of the German advance were staggering, but hope flickered in the resistance movements that sprang up across occupied Europe. Ordinary men and women, risking everything, became saboteurs, spies, and fighters. Their courage, a beacon in the darkness, would play a crucial role in the war's outcome. In June 1941, Hitler, breaking a pact, unleashed his forces on the Soviet Union. This marked the beginning of one of the most brutal and extensive campaigns in military history. The Nazi war machine, confident and relentless, surged forward with a single objective: to crush the Soviet Union and secure its vast resources for the Third Reich. Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history, had begun. Over 3 million German soldiers, supported by thousands of tanks and aircraft, poured across the Soviet border in a meticulously planned assault. The initial phase saw rapid advances, with the German forces capturing vast swathes of territory and encircling entire Soviet armies. The Eastern Front, stretching from the Arctic Circle to the Black Sea, became a battleground of unimaginable savagery. The harsh winter conditions added to the misery, with soldiers on both sides enduring freezing temperatures, inadequate supplies, and relentless combat. The scale of the conflict was unprecedented, with battles raging across vast distances and involving millions of troops. The Red Army, though initially caught off guard, fought back with a ferocity born of desperation. Soviet soldiers, driven by a fierce determination to defend their homeland, launched counterattacks and set up formidable defenses. The resilience and bravery of the Soviet troops began to turn the tide, slowing the German advance and inflicting heavy casualties. The Battle of Stalingrad, a brutal, months-long siege, became a turning point in the war. The city, reduced to rubble, became a symbol of Soviet resistance. The fierce urban combat, with soldiers fighting street by street and house by house, resulted in staggering losses on both sides. Yet, the Soviet defenders held firm, eventually encircling and trapping the German Sixth Army. The German Sixth Army, once invincible, was decimated. Starved, exhausted, and out of options, the remaining German forces surrendered in early 1943. This defeat marked a significant blow to Hitler's ambitions and a major victory for the Soviet Union. The loss of an entire army shattered the myth of German invincibility and boosted Soviet morale. The Eastern Front was a meat grinder, consuming millions of lives on both sides. The relentless fighting, combined with the harsh conditions, led to unimaginable suffering and loss. Trenches filled with soldiers, mass graves, and the constant threat of death became the grim reality for those on the front lines. The sheer scale of the fighting, the inhumanity, and the sacrifice defied comprehension. Cities were reduced to ruins, and the human cost was staggering. The Eastern Front remains one of the most devastating and significant theaters of war in history, a testament to the resilience and determination of those who fought and endured its horrors. Section 5. The Home Front: Resilience and Sacrifice. While armies clashed on distant battlefields, the home front became a war zone of its own. Civilians endured rationing, blackouts, and the constant fear of air raids. Women stepped into factories and shipyards, taking on jobs previously considered men's work. Children were evacuated from cities, separated from their families in the name of safety. Life was a constant struggle, a daily test of resilience. Yet, amidst the hardship, there was a spirit of unity and determination. People pulled together, supporting each other, sharing what little they had. The war, though distant, touched every aspect of life. Section 6. Turning the tide. The tide of war began to turn. The Allied victory in North Africa, spearheaded by Montgomery and Patton, boosted morale. The Battle of the Atlantic, a long and grueling campaign, saw the Allies slowly gain the upper hand against German U-boats. Then came D-Day, June 6, 1944. The largest amphibious invasion in history saw Allied forces storm the beaches of Normandy, France. It was a day of courage, sacrifice, and a turning point in the war. Section 7. Island hopping and the atomic bomb. In the Pacific, the war raged on. The United States, engaged in a brutal island-hopping campaign, fought its way towards Japan. Battles like Iwo Jima and Okinawa were marked by fierce resistance and heavy casualties on both sides. Then, in August 1945, the world witnessed the dawn of the atomic age. The United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, devastating the cities and killing hundreds of thousands. Japan surrendered, bringing an end to the most destructive war in history. Section 8. Victory and its price. Victory in Europe was declared on May 8, 1945, a day of celebration and relief. The world rejoiced, but the cost had been staggering. Millions lay dead, victims of a war that had consumed nations and shattered lives. The scars of war ran deep. Cities lay in ruins, families were torn apart. The Holocaust, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime, stood as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. The world was forever changed. The war had reshaped boundaries, shattered empires, and ushered in a new world order. Section 9. A world forever changed. In the aftermath of the war, the United Nations was formed, a beacon of hope in a world yearning for peace. The establishment of this international body marked a significant turning point in global diplomacy. Nations came together, determined to prevent such a catastrophic conflict from ever happening again. The United Nations aimed to foster cooperation, dialogue, and mutual understanding among countries, promoting human rights and social progress on an unprecedented scale. The Marshall Plan helped rebuild war-torn Europe. This ambitious initiative, officially known as the European Recovery Programme, was spearheaded by the United States. It provided over $12 billion in economic assistance to help rebuild European economies. The aid was crucial in revitalizing industries, restoring infrastructure and stabilizing economies, laying the foundation for modern Europe. The Marshall Plan not only facilitated economic recovery, but also strengthened political ties between the United States and Europe, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. The Cold War, a geopolitical standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, cast a long shadow over the world. This period of intense rivalry and ideological conflict shaped international relations for decades. The world was divided into two blocs, each led by a superpower with opposing ideologies. The threat of nuclear war loomed large, influencing political decisions and military strategies. The Berlin Wall became a powerful symbol of this division, representing the physical and ideological barriers that separated East and West. The legacy of World War II is complex and multifaceted. It reshaped borders, economies, and societies. The war's aftermath saw the emergence of new nations and the decline of old empires. It spurred technological advancements and changes in social norms. The experiences of the war influenced art, literature, and culture, leaving an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of humanity. The lessons learned from this global conflict continue to resonate, reminding us of the costs of war and the value of peace. It was a time of unimaginable destruction, but also of incredible courage, resilience, and sacrifice. Soldiers and civilians alike displayed extraordinary bravery in the face of adversity. Communities came together to rebuild their lives, demonstrating the strength of the human spirit. The stories of individual heroism and collective effort during this period are a testament to the resilience and determination of people to overcome even the most daunting challenges. It forced humanity to confront the darkest aspects of its nature, but also showcased the best. The liberation of concentration camps revealed the horrors of the Holocaust, prompting a global reckoning with issues of human rights and justice. At the same time, the post-war period saw remarkable acts of kindness, solidarity, and unity. People from different backgrounds and nations worked together to heal the wounds of war and build a better future. World War II serves as a stark reminder of the human capacity for both good and evil. A cautionary tale about the fragility of peace and the importance of vigilance against tyranny and oppression. The war's legacy is preserved in memorials and monuments around the world, honoring those who fought and those who perished. These sites serve as places of reflection and education, ensuring that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. They remind us of the need to strive for a world where peace, justice, and human dignity prevail.